What's happening, peeps? So I've been playing Tearaway Unfolded for the last week or so, and as usual I thought I would share my opinions on the game and let you know whether I think it's good, whether I think you'll like it, and whether or not it's worth picking up. So originally this was a PS Vita title that I think came out in 2013 that was just called Tearaway. It was not Tearaway Unfolded, and the whole concept behind this game is what they call a fourth wall breaking game. So it tried to use pretty much all of the Vita's different inputs, so the microphone, the camera, the touchpad, to interact with the game in a different way. The game's now been upscaled to 1080p and running at 60 frames per second, and it's not just a visual overhaul, they've actually added a little bit more to the story. There's new levels and new things to do in the game, so it's a more complete game than the original game on the PS Vita was. It was developed by Media Molecule, who are best known for Little Big Planet, so if you've played that one, this one's going to feel really familiar. Now obviously the PS4 does not have all the same sort of inputs that the Vita has. I mean, it has a lot of them, such as the touchpad, but a lot of the other ones have to be added via different devices. So obviously, if you want a microphone, you've got to add that. If you want a camera, you've got to add that. So one of the ways that the developers got around this is by adding the companion app. So if you're lucky enough to have a smartphone or a tablet, you can actually use the PlayStation app as a second screen, and then you can do a lot of the interaction via the companion app. The game also makes good use of the motion control in the DualShock controller. Now, apart from all these different methods of interacting with the game, the bulk of the gameplay is done in third person, and it's a platforming game that kind of focuses on creativity, and you'll often be interacting with the game and adding things into the world. The story has you take control of the messenger to guide him or her through the world. The game constantly reminds you that you're not actually the main character, you simply control him. There's plenty of scenarios in which you actually interact with the messenger, such as passing objects through the screen that you can fling back at enemies and other objects. But ultimately I found this a little strange, and it kind of gave me the feeling of being disconnected, even though I know it was supposed to be doing the opposite. Your goal in the game is to navigate through the world and get the messenger to the hole in the sky to deliver your message. Along the way you'll be solving puzzles, fighting bad guys, or boxes in this case, and interacting with various different characters to collect confetti, which is the game's currency. Confetti can be used for buying various different items such as camera filters, and different accessories such as noses, mouths, and eyes that you can add to the messenger or other characters in the game. I found the game was pretty heavy on the tutorials and hints. Even towards the end of the game, it was constantly trying to give me information or tips about what to do. And for this reason, I feel like it was designed for a much younger audience. Other things that sort of lead me to believe this game was designed for younger people or even kids is the puzzles are pretty easy, the story is very basic, I mean even the enemies are really cute and friendly, and overall the game has a very safe, child-friendly feeling to it. Also, the whole concept of creating your own graphics to add to the game world seems like it's directed at kids, because I found my mind going to the gutter more often than not, and that can lead to some pretty unfortunate designs. Most of the dialogue in the game is presented in text boxes, which I actually find really frustrating and boring. And I must admit this is a really subjective thing, but I just find it's a really lazy way to do storytelling. The other thing that I thought was frustrating is the game is pretty heavy on introduction cutscenes. So quite often you'll have to talk to a character and click through a couple of these text boxes, and then sit through a small intro animation which will show some new enemies pop up or a new puzzle that you have to solve. And quite often you'll only play a little bit more of the game before you have to go through this process again. As I mentioned before, the game is a third-person platformer, and navigating around the world is done through the typical analog controls. For the most part, I found the controls work perfectly. I didn't really encounter any sections where the controls let me down, although having said that, there isn't really much in the way of challenging platforming. I will say that the camera angle can sometimes obscure what you're looking at, although it can be manually manipulated, but it is still annoying to die by falling off a ledge that you didn't know was there. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of non-typical interaction with this game, and to get the most out of it, you'll definitely need a smartphone or a tablet. A microphone will also come in handy for the few voice recording sections. None of this is essential by any means, but they certainly make the creation and interaction parts a lot easier and a lot more fun. In this regard, it definitely feels like it was designed for all the Vita's built-in functionality, and having to swap between the companion app and the controller can be a little bit fiddly. I found that I also had to keep reconnecting my device after it auto-timed out from my PS4, which was a little bit frustrating. I guess if you had a friend sitting on the couch doing all the creation bits through the app, that might be a good way to remedy this. In terms of appearance, the game is really bright and colourful, and obviously the move to 1080p and 60 frames per second has made the visual presentation really impressive. There's virtually no jaggy edges on anything, everything is really sharp and all the textures are really crisp, and the art direction is definitely one of the game's strongest points. The whole thing runs at 60 frames per second, and for the most part I didn't really experience any hiccups, except for the occasional odd frame drop, which didn't seem to be related to anything specific. I think whether you like the visuals of the game will really depend on whether you like the art style of Rex Crow, who is the guy who did all the little paper characters of this game. He's also the designer who worked on Little Big Planet. So in summary, did I like Tearaway? Yeah, not really. I don't think it's a bad game by any stretch of the imagination. For me personally though, I found it a little bit cutesy. The story was a little bit simple, I didn't like the text being delivered in text boxes, and the puzzles were really simple. I like something that's really challenging. I think this would be a perfect game for kids or for someone who's not particularly into video games who might be looking to find an entry point, but I don't think it stands up as a full-price retail game. I think if you can find this game on discount or in a bargain bin somewhere, then definitely give it a spin, but as it stands, I'm only going to give Tearaway Unfolded a 5 out of 10. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you've got any other questions, be sure to drop them in the comment section below. Otherwise, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you later. What is your guilty pleasure movie? A movie that is criticised, but you can't help but love it. What plans do you have for your channel? To keep doing what I'm doing and enjoying what I'm doing and just doing it and doing it and doing it. That got weird.